Good evening. Whatever time it is when you hear this message, I pray that you're poised to receive, to accept, and to respond to words of wisdom. Ashe. I want to tell you a couple things that I know as a teacher. Some things that I know as a teacher by virtue of the fact that I have dedicated all of my adult career, all of my training has been around education, human development, etc. And then I was a student, of course, myself for many years. And what I want you to understand is that conditioning, programming, mind control are, first of all, they're essential in a modern era. Let's just be practical about it. You're talking about the time in which we have more people on the planet than ever. India just announced the other day that they have surpassed China in population. So there's like over 7 billion people on the planet. You got cities with, 20, 30 million people, right? Well, not 30 million. Maybe, Mexico City, I think, has got 25 million people. Los Angeles, New York, right? You just, with all those people, you just try to get 5 people to go from one place to another. And you know how difficult it is to manage 8 million people, 9 million people, and then 7 billion people on a whole. So just based on that, there's a guarantee there's going to be a certain degree of conditioning, programming, and mind control, period. It's just part of the program going forward, okay? And so with that being said, the big red flag for all of us is that, well, we don't want to be controlled. Well, who's the programmer, and what are they programming you to do? What are they conditioning you to do? What are they controlling your mind to do? And is it really in your best interest, or is it only in their best interest? So that's the big red flag that everybody is legitimately concerned about. So with that being said, programming, mind control, etc., is an inevitable part of our reality. 2, people are suspicious of it, and rightfully so. 3, it works. Conditioning, mind control, etc., it works. Brainwashing is a real thing. It works. All right, it works. So most people, when you discover that it works, you get discouraged. Most people get angry after they're discouraged. Most people, throw their hands up after that. Folks go from being discouraged to being outraged to just saying forget about it. You know what I mean? Just you don't even try anymore. You don't even really put any effort to try to undo things. Or people will delude themselves. That's probably even more popular. That's I'm gonna, based on what my observation is, most people just pretend that they are bucking the system. Most people pretend that by being a rebel without a cause, you're actually bucking the system. No, you're not. So what I want to do is I want you to pause at the state of recognizing that conditioning, programming, and mind control work. I want you to just hold right there. It works. From that point, what I want you to do is I want you to start to examine really objectively the ways in which you have been conditioned, the ways in which you have been programmed, the ways in which you are under mind control. Look at, let me give you a real simple way to look at this. I hate the title of this book, but it's real. There's a book, I've forgotten the guy's name, written like in the 70s. The book is called The Student as Nigger. Okay? And the point that he makes in this book is that the student is the nigger, in the sense that he's dispensable, he's cannon fodder. The student is there to be used and manipulated and exploited to the ends of the institution. Whatever they want the student to be is what the student is going to be. Okay? So it really could have been called the student as slave. But it's not quite slavery because the student is free to come and go, right? So it's I get why the guy wrote the title. He's a white dude who wrote the book, but the point is that the student is indispensable. That the institution can just use him or her however they see fit, right? Then he goes on to explain how you can go through school and you have been taking some kind of literacy, some kind of mathematics, some kind of science, some kind of social studies for at least 12 years. If you graduated from high school, you had 12 consecutive years of literacy, mathematics, social science, and science. But based on what I read in people's online posting, you don't know grammar. You don't know grammar. Your grammar is awful. Your spelling is almost as bad. I'm just saying this. I'm not trying to be rude, but just looking at it, hey, the average person has really garbage writing skills. Just to be honest. Mathematical skills, forget about it. Most of us could barely do algebra when we were in the 10th grade. And today, man, forget about it. Talking about trigonometry and calculus and stuff like that is out of the question. If we could name all 50 states, if we could detail any aspect of American history, let alone give the dates and the locations where historical things came about. If we could detail what really was the Civil War about, what really happened during the Spanish-American War, who was in reality, pick a character. John Quincy Adams. Who was he? Who really was Crispus Attucks? Who really were these people? We don't know. We don't know. Science, how the body works, you don't know. You get a headache, you don't know what to do. Your stomach ache, you don't know why. The weather is doing this. We got people out here talking about the earth is flat in 2023. We got people out here talking about the black Mayans of Tenochtitlan were actually the original Africans. I mean, and it's a movement. These things are movements. It's not like one kooky guy off in a corner talking to himself, and everyone obviously looking at this guy's totally unhinged. No, these are movements. These are like, well, you've got percentages of people who are in agreement with this and will argue tooth and nail. That's the extent to which what I'm trying to say is that you don't know as far as just basic content. We have been totally denied just the basic content of literacy, mathematics, science, and social studies. We don't know. We don't know. But what we do know is that you sit in that chair and your chair faces that teacher. And you don't look to your left and you don't look to your right. You know that. You know that when that bell rings, you leave and you come to the next class. You do know that. You do know if they write your name on the board or they give you a slip and send you to the office, you know you're in a world of trouble. That's all conditioning, ladies and gentlemen. That's conditioning. You're just being conditioned for 12 straight years to sit in your chair, face forward, don't look left, don't look right. Everything is coming from the teacher. That is one way in which you have been conditioned. Now, I want you to go and look at other instances in your life. How that basic model now translates into how you behave in the society, what you do in your workplace, right? Look at your entertainment. Look at your aesthetics of what you think is beautiful. Look at your value system, what you think is right and what you think is wrong. Just examine the ways in which you have been conditioned, programmed, and your mind has been controlled. Okay? That's step one. You're not going to like it. It's going to make you uncomfortable, but you need to do an inventory on yourself. Right? lot of the thoughts that you think are yours that are bumping around in your head, those aren't even your own thoughts. Those are all conditioned thoughts. Those are all conditioned responses. Challenge yourself to respond and not just react to stimulus. Something happens, examine. My first response to this is, where did I get that response though? Why do I think that's the most appropriate response? Right? This is important because you need to assess and come to grips with the reality of how deeply you have been conditioned and programmed. Because programming, mind control, conditioning, it works. But if it can work for your enemy, it can also work for you. That's the good news. Once you see the extent to which your enemy has programmed you, right? Then you understand the extent to which you can actually be programmed. Then you decide, how do you actually want to be programmed? Because as a human being, the other underlying reality is that you need to be programmed. Now, as an American, that's hard for you to grasp. Like most Americans don't. We live in the fantasy that, because I'm doing my own thing, that I'm free of all that other stuff. It's nonsense. People are people because of other people. Period. It's always been that way. We're not like the birds. We're not like the snakes and the turtles. Right? Those things, within some animals or some organisms, within a day, within a week, within a month, within with the mammals, maybe you get a couple of years. But then they're on their own. Human beings, it takes you at least 20 years under someone else supporting you, guiding you, programming you, telling you what to do, what not to do. You need at least 20 years to do that before you're really able to go out on your own. Some people go out and figure it out, but that's not ideal. And you ask them and they'll tell you, I did this because I had to. I started fending for myself when I was 15 because I had to. It's not ideal. I wouldn't put my own child through that. So human beings need programming. We need conditioning. We desperately need it. It's part of being a human being. You just need to make up your mind about how you want to be programmed. What program you want to follow. What program you want to adhere to. What program can you give yourself to? What program can you surrender to fully and have total faith that, yes, this is the direction that is most suitable for me. Now, this is where you have culture. This is why culture exists. This is the value of culture. It's the value of culture. Your culture gives you a program that's consistent with your origin. Your culture gives you a program, it gives you conditioning that's consistent with your lineage. Your culture provides the kind of mind control that you need to fulfill your destiny in a way that doesn't contradict your family, doesn't contradict your lineage, doesn't contradict your community, your tribe. That's what the culture is all about. So I'm going to tell you, if you want to streamline the process, you're still going to have to do the work to figure out how much you've been programmed. But to streamline the process and start finding an alternate program or an original program, a real conditioning system, look to your culture. Look to your culture. That's where you're going to find all the treasure. And generally speaking, if you, as an African person, look to African culture. Pick one and stick to it. I myself practice Yoruba culture. You may not, jive with the Yoruba culture for one reason or another. But if you're here, you probably are. So I'm just going to stick with that. Hey, even if you feel like, you know what, you're 50-50. I'm like, Yoruba Congo, great. Be Yoruba Congo. Follow the Yoruba system and live with the Congo vibe, or vice versa. But focus on a culture and learn that culture, practice that culture, be a part of that culture. Sure, read about the culture, watch videos on that culture, listen to the music, eat the food, wear the clothes, but then also interact with the people. Go and mix and mingle with people from the culture. Go and be a fly on the wall in those places. Learn to ask pertinent questions and then listen. Go to the place where the culture originates and be there and observe and feel and absorb. And allow yourself to be programmed, conditioned, and to develop the kind of mind control that you need to fulfill your destiny. You may not like those words. Those are trigger words for a lot of folks. Be teachable. Be teachable. Okay? And again, I'm telling you all of this based on my experience as a teacher, as an educator. I've been a professional educator for my entire career, which we're talking about now, well over 25 years. So I have seen thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people in an educational capacity. I didn't used to be doing something else. I've only done this. So when I'm talking to you, I'm talking with total certainty. This is what I have seen and done with people. White people, black people, people in the Northeast, people in the Southwest, people everywhere in between, coast to coast. I have worked with people face to face, one on one, 100, whatever the case may be. I'm telling you this based on my direct experience. Conditioning, programming, mind control work. They are real things and they are working on you. So you either decide how it's going to work, or you're going to let someone else decide for you, or probably you're going to continue because it's working. So you're at some point right now, I'm giving you the opportunity, or I'm giving you the challenge. Take the bull by the horns. Grab the tiger by the tail right now. Start looking at the ways in which you are being conditioned, programmed, and your mind is being controlled, and be honest with yourself. Stop deluding yourself into thinking that you are just some kind of a free-floating radical and all of your decisions are your own and you're just somehow independent of all the other things that all the other 7 billion people on the planet are being subjected to. Let that go. Face the reality. They've been programming you from before you were an embryo. There was a plan set in place. Social engineering is a real thing. Someone knew that the population was going to be 7 billion in 2023 50 years ago, and they started making plans. They started making plans. Someone knew that the population was going to reach over 7 billion 50 years ago. And they started creating different kinds of programs and conditioning. So you're a part of that. You are a part of that. But you do have the opportunity as well as the obligation to determine how you are going to participate in that from this moment onward. All right. And so when I look at the reason why Ifa matters, it matters because it provides for you a way to re-Africanize your mind. Ifa provides a wide spread, far-reaching program to re-Africanize your thinking. It enables you to think in a way that predates all the social programming that we're subjected to right now. Ifa enables you to envision reality and respond to reality according to a set of rules and parameters that existed long before what I call reading, mathematics, social science, and science. Ifa predates science. Ifa predates literacy. Ifa predates mathematics. There is literacy and mathematics and all that stuff in Ifa. But as a discipline, and the way in which those disciplines are put together to create a learning experience, Ifa comes way before that. So when you adhere to Ifa, you don't just go through the motions, but you really subject yourself to the logic, to the psychology, to the ethos, to the values and the purpose of Ifa. Then what you're doing is you're reprogramming yourself according to something that is elder than anything else. This is why we say Isheshe Lagba. You may have seen that statement or heard that statement, Isheshe Lagba. It means that Isheshe is senior, is the elder. Isheshe is the progenitor. Isheshe is the original. Isheshe is our natural spring of life. Our Isheshe. It's our source. It's our designator. It's the thing that gives us our true identity. Right? That's Isheshe. Isheshe Lagba. Isheshe is senior. Okay? So the reason why Ifa matters is because it gives you an opportunity to re-Africanize your mind, reclaim your African mind, to reclaim your African identity, to restore your African worldview, to think in the ways in which the originals thought. Right? So when I talk about Orisha lifestyle, I'm talking about living and existing in the same way, according to the same pattern of reality that Shango existed to, according to. Living in the way that's consistent with the way Oshun lived. Living in the way that's consistent with the way Obatala lived. Living in a way that's consistent with the way Ogun lived. It's a lifestyle that comes out of a mindset that's original and it fits you as a person of African descent. That is why Ifa matters. That is why the ancestors kept the tradition alive and kept perpetuating it all throughout the world. See, because in the same way that someone knew that the population was going to reach 7 billion in 2023, the ancestors also knew that you would be here and that you would be coming back, or that they would be coming back. And they kept the tradition alive, and they kept it thriving, and they kept it clear and tangible enough for people to recognize it generation after generation. The tradition could go to Trinidad, Brazil, Cuba, it could go to the United States, it could go all these different places and become very different and very distinct in all those places, but still be recognizable. That's the work of our ancestors, because they knew that this day would come as well. And they wanted to give you something to hold on to. They wanted to give you something to follow that would link you back to the beginning. Because we say no matter how far a river flows, it never forgets its source. Right now, I invoke the source of your destiny, the source of your lineage. No matter how far you flow in the river of life, I pray that the source of your identity will call out to you. It will give you the courage and will give you the patience to face your reality as it is today, and to make that reality something else. I pray that your source will empower you to not allow the existing conditioning and programming and mind control to just have their way with you. That you will feel the resilience and the clarity and the sense of purpose that your ancestors have passed down to you, strongly enough that you will change the direction of your flow, of your movement, of your consciousness, and of your attention, to continue to impose upon this world the intentions and the power and the brilliance and the genius of your African ancestors. This is essential not only for you personally, but this is essential for the survival of the planet. The world depends on you. The world depends on you. In the same way that all these precious minerals and resources come out of Africa and have been coming out of Africa since the beginning of time, you're the custodians of those riches. You're the original custodians of those riches. You are the people who have the most profound relationship to that continent and everything that comes out of that continent. And so the ways in which people are exploiting the continent right now to their, according to their own short-term goals, you have a different plan for that. You have a different system for managing the resources. You have an indigenous system, but you got to claim it. You got to subject yourself to it. You got to participate in it with the full knowledge that it is here to show us a sustainable way of living, a way of living that has proven its strength and its resilience over time and under all circumstances. So you have all the proof that you need that reprogramming yourself according to the African way is the best for you. It's just a question of making the effort. Okay. So again, I invoke your source right now. I invoke your ancestors, the ones who shepherded you through this whole process, the ones who sat with you, the ones who whispered in your ear, the ones who nudged you this way and that way in ways that you couldn't possibly understand to bring you to the house of Orisha. And I pray that that source will continue to hold on to you and continue to uplift you and continue to guide you in the process of re-Africanization and reclaiming your place as the architect of your own destiny. Abo Raboye, Abo Shisha.